but on one condition.
Anything.
I want to kill the unicorn.
I'm Dan Carlson, one quarter of the Lost Blokes, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Dave Nesbitt, another quarter of the Lost Blokes. I am currently drinking water. Like, comment, and subscribe.
I'm John Kadolf. I am one quarter of the Lost Blokes as well, and I say like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah.
And check me. Hey, don't kink shame me. I always like to subscribe first.
We've all got our things. Okay, you know.
Check me out on Twitch. Check me out on Twitch. Sir Lord Starhawk. That's me. Sir Lord Starhawk.
I am the Mad Hat Cat, and I am one quarter of the Lost Blokes. And what I would like you to do is just come, sit, and talk.
I value
this. My boy is trying so hard. He is trying so hard to like be nice and presentable and princely. Nah, doesn't work. It can be so easy when you're in such heavy makeup and you've got a lot of, stuff on top of your head, a lot of weight that you're not used to being there, for like emotion to just go out the door, especially with facial expression. But Tim Curry, my man, he's getting it done.
I think a lot of that was the neck pain that he was in, probably shining through in the performance.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. Like, darkness will reign eternal if you do not get this damn thing off my head. He actually apparently had kind of a panic attack of claustrophobia at one point during filming, and couldn't wait for the hour-long bath to dissolve all the spirit gum. And so he just started ripping stuff off his face and tore at his own skin. So they had to be filming around him for about a week while that shit got figured out.
Wow.
I totally get it though. If it was just a really intense bad day of shooting, it was probably hot as hell under all that crap. And just get me out.
It's got to be stressful to be playing Freddy Krueger and be covered in makeup. But think about what Tim Curry's like, hey, Robert.
No, honey, you don't even know.
Right.
You don't even
no clue.
know.
So we should probably mention
you have these giant horns in your head? No, you don't. No, they're not weighing down your neck the way the mine are. So with that in mind, hey, Robert, taking all that makeup off, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's nice. Whatever. You're adorable.
That's you sweet summer child.
This is our second movie in a row that starts with an L and has fantasy elements. So
yes,
and it's from the 80s.
Yeah,
from the 80s.
The high point of fantasy film.
I watched this film probably over 200 times. This is one of my favorite fantasy films, period. It always was. I more daydreaming and that kind of stuff came from this and Labyrinth. I finally finished Darkness. This is
look at his shading.
Work of art.
A 3D resin print.
I'm convinced. Okay, I'll be your bride.
Well,
take me away, boys.
If I must, yes.
Take me away.
So
I will make these available if anyone wants them painted or unpainted. Just look me up. Well, you don't have to look me up. You're looking at me right now. Just leave me a message.
Is the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, but Eve
no, don't start with that crap. You ruin it all.
I mean, it's kind of hard to deny that there is, if not an intentional parallel there, it's definitely subconscious in the minds of an American audience who, religious or not, we all have the puritanical impulses embedded deep within our minds. First, it was the lady's fault, but was it her fault? Jack was the one who's like, no, I want to show you the thing.
Okay,
all right, so let's talk about
everyone knows that, Lily. Everyone knows you don't touch unicorns. God.
I mean, yeah, but I mean that then therefore makes Jack Satan, which is kind of awesome, really.
Okay, well, I was just going to start off by giving a little bit of synopsis of the film. So we open up, we have Darkness sitting there on his throne, and
being all dark and broody.
Yeah, and the great opening lines, Mother Night, wrap your dark arms around me.
Dave,
and
I just want to throw this at Dave. Dave, is that a Vonnegut reference, Mother Night?
I think so. Although, that
wouldn't I be surprised?
That picture, I mean, there's an awful lot of references going all the way through this particular film. So
he summons his most trusted goblin, Blix, who speaks
with the best voice. He sounds like the evil goblin version of Wheelie from Transformers because he rhymes all the time. Except sometimes not because I'm tired of it.
I love Blix.
So
I'm kind of getting
comes
that,
in,
yeah.
And of course, Darkness is troubled because he's trapped. He's trapped in this giant death tree. So
Blix says to him, "Hello, Darkness, my old friend."
Yeah.
Please, somebody tell me that you have done a music video to that, just with all the abusive behavior between Lord of Darkness and all of the goblins, please.
Yeah. So Darkness, he has these goblins in his thrall, and it appears that Blix is the leader of them. Very willing servant. He's very careful the way he talks to him, of course. And he asks, "Are you not
very
loathsome of my
grovelly,
goblins?"
as a proper minion should be.
Yeah.
But he is just biding his time.
Yeah, but I just love the dialogue in this. I mean, the way that they speak in poem, and
he's the anti-Puck.
Yeah, well,
which is saying something because Puck is not good.
What is
Puck?
Puck?
Is basically Puck, the fairy. He's called Robin Good, called Robin Goodfellow and Sweet Puck. Although we do have another Puck character in this movie now, the Gump, who also kind of has a similar kind of raspy whisper scream, sort of like Blix does.
I'm not down on my fantasy terminology because I always thought of what you guys are calling Pucks as elves.
Definitely. They I think Gump even says, they're all elves of some sort, although they all kind of you're all some type of forest fae. We got it. You're elves, or maybe not fae, but fairy folk.
Yeah.
Gnomes, elves. I think he refers to Una as a sprite.
Yeah, and he's telling him that he's troubled because there is still goodness, this creature that is keeping goodness in the world, and he doesn't know what it is, so he slams his fruit dagger right into the middle of his cranium, and he says, "Let this serve as a reminder." Yeah.
Okay, you could have just told me. Thanks.
And then right at the end of that scene, now, okay, it's probably not the case, but I always had this weird feeling that Blix went down on Darkness. He's like, "Yes, master," and then he goes, subscribe, comment, and like.
Speaking of good and memorable lines, what is it that unicorns are drawn to most?
Innocence. Innocence.
Innocence. And then what do we get? ta-da, synthy, sparkling score.
Yeah, and
dandelion plumes everywhere. Just it's
the,
a constant state. The hay fever in this world must be ridiculous.
Yeah, the pollen and that's flowing. But see, I love that. I've always sought out a forest that looked like that. I've always wanted to find that kind of setting and just live there.
All right, so we have to shoot our fantasy microfilm over at Petrified Springs Park when we come to Wisconsin, because that's about as close as it's going to get.
Okay, you'll have to show me this.
It's right behind Parkside.
Some of the forests that they shot this in. Wasn't it somewhere with redwoods, or was that just like the inspiration for the look that Ridley Scott wanted? I remember reading something about redwoods.
It was the inspiration for it. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing there is actually sets, which became a problem when the entire fucking studio burned down when they were all at lunch.
Wow, I didn't
know. The Lord
know
of Darkness
that.
was right. He does live within us all.
It was probably Tim not wanting to be in makeup that day. He's just like,
Tim was like, God, I'm done with this fucking makeup.
No, you know who it was. It was Blix.
Fire, fire, burning higher.
Yes.
Making music like a choir.
Yeah, the word, by the way, so for the unicorn horn, it's called an alicorn. In my entire experience with high fantasy, alicorn has always been used to refer to a unicorn that is also bewinged. So either a horned Pegasus or a winged unicorn. But here it's not, it's used to refer to the horn itself.
Yeah. So that's when, like, the lines that Kat was quoting about the warnings that Nell gives Lily on the way out. She's all excited because she knows she's going to go visit Jack, and
rather
Nell
than
kind of
to attend
suspects
to
it
her
as well.
princessly duties.
Yeah, Nell has a pretty good idea that she's up to hanky panky, and so then Lily heads out and is looking around.
Dave cheering the concept of hanky.
Yeah, go teenage hanky panky. You do it, buddies. Wrap it up first. What are the high fantasy equivalent of condoms? I think they use like goat skin or like lamb skin.
They used lamb intestines.
Yeah, that's what it was. Tied a little knot at the end.
So they get it on, and then she is magically back in her dress, and they're talking to a bird, and he's kind of instructing her. And
like you do after coitus.
Yeah.
They don't have
Snow
cigarettes.
White did it,
Yeah. So instead, they talk to birds.
They didn't have pillow talk, so they had bird talk.
So she's talking to the birds and wants Jack to tell their future, and he says, "No, I've got something better for you. I've been promising that I was going to show you something special. We have to go now, and because they'll only be here for a short time." And then he goes to blindfold her, and she says, "Wait, don't you trust me, Jack?" And he's like, "Yeah, I trust you, Lily." Boom, puts it on her anyways. And then so they head off.
No, I trust you. The magical, mystical incarnations of light and goodness don't trust you.
This whole time they're being stalked by Blix and his cohorts. The piggy.
So nice as rotting meat.
Yeah, the piggy. I have a feeling that there was a bit of like mongrel man in Piggy and Buckethead, because Buckethead had a lobster hand. Did you notice that he had a lobster clanky clank? He was cursed, and which is why he left the rest of the fairies and elves. Yeah, he was cursed. He did something wrong and was cursed.
He did something wrong, amongst his elven brethren. And then he was like, "They'll never forgive me. I have nowhere to go." And then he disguised himself to go and join up with them. But I guess you're right. When they take off the helmet, he still has his little claw hand, whatever.
Yeah, he has his claw hand, and he's kind of messed up a little bit. Yeah, well, so he goes and he joins Darkness. He wasn't like a spy for good or anything. He actually went and joined Darkness because he figured he had no place in the light anymore. So he goes and he's assisting in this whole
Precautionary tale.
thing. Yeah. So they're stalking them, and Jack leads Lily off to the creek running through the forest. And of course, here we have another, spoiled bratty girl. Sorry, but that's the
All these
truth.
Bratty, whiny, selfish, entitled,
Yes.
curly-haired brunettes in peasant sleaze.
And she goes. She insists on
Stop playing to my fetishes, damn you.
Yeah. So Lily goes off and starts. She's like, shit. He takes off, and Jack's like, no, you can't do this. You mustn't do it. And she, and they come up.
There.
Yeah, and why doesn't he go grab her? But it's a
Right?
free will. It's a free will kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
and he's willing to risk the entire fucking balance of good and evil in the world to get.
Yeah, well, he's allowing her free will.
So
if you're talking
nice
Garden of Eden here at all,
stand-in.
If you're talking, I was going to say, if you're talking Garden of Eden at all, Jack is God. No. And he's the one communing with humanity and then allowing them free will to make the big mistake. And it wasn't, so anyway,
I have
so
something
she goes
to mention later that'll refute.
and so the moment she touches the unicorn's face, Jack is like, fuck this. He gets up and leaves, and immediately
God is like, fuck this.
And then paradise is ruined forever because you were curious, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, and then of course Blix fires the poison, which I love it because
that scene, isn't it so cool?
I still notice new things in here. I never noticed it before, but the poison pot is a dead frog. So fires the thing, they take off, she freaks out and realizes right away that, shit's gone sideways, goes and finds Jack. Jack,
sorry.
Yeah, she's wandering through the forest, and Jack's voice is coming from everywhere and saying, you did a bad thing, bitch.
Yeah, that's totally the God stand-in. All right.
And then we get the bratty line and the face. I only wanted to touch him. It's like
again, nobody explained the rules. They just expected her to fucking know.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't love it.
The
puritanical values.
What's the harm in that? That entitled kind of thing. It's like people going into nature and picking up like sacred stones and standing on sacred stones and ruining them.
Okay, that was just that one time though.
There was just this big thing in Hawaii where this YouTuber or I don't know, Twitch streamer or something, stood on these stones in Hawaii and they fell over, and so they had to act, and she thought it was funny. She was like laughing about it, and they explained that they had to go through this whole ritual now to place the stones back exactly how they were and all that kind of stuff, and what kind of trouble that caused. And finally she apologized because heaven forbid,
but it didn't plunge all of reality into permanent winter.
Yes, it did plunge.
Could you not?
So they're sitting there. She finds Jack and she apologizes, and then she thinks, okay, what can I do to get out of this? So then she's like, don't you wish this was our wedding ring?
My feminine wiles.
Yes. Don't you wish this was our wedding ring? It's it's my.
And it immediately suckers him.
Yeah, it's my right to set a challenge for my suitors. Whoever finds this ring, I will marry, and throws it in.
Flings it over the side of a cliff.
Yep. And he's just like, shit, off after it. And then that's when all the shit hits the fan and everything starts to turn to ice and snow. And so she goes up into the loft and hides because she hears Blix and company coming. and waits up there while
Like,
they're
Cat describes Blix and Friends. It sounds like they're lawyers, Blix and Associates, and when it's a Blix and Company, so it's like
Blix and Company.
Now they're a band.
Yeah.
That's why he wants the alicorn. He knows that they can make it if they just have that extra little push.
So they're fucking around, but they also are verbalizing what exactly happened and saying, it was her, she did it. It was, because Blix was like, guess what I did, blah, blah, blah. And Piggy goes, yeah, you only were able to do it because it was the fair maiden that distracted them. Anyway. And she's like,
my fault. I am the worst.
Yeah, she is. But anyway, she's hot as she is.
She is not the worst.
She is not the worst.
I think we are. I think we have a fundamental different reading of this movie. It's going to be revealed as you go on.
Well, anyway,
but anyway, she realizes her mistake, and she is like, well, I've got to set this right. If I was the cause of this, then I need to go out and do whatever I need to do to fix it.
Yeah, I'll make it right.
Hey, if there's a problem, Yosh'll solve it. Check it out while the DJ revolves it. Yeah.
So she sets out to figure something out, and at this point, we see Jack laying in the snow. How did they all not just die? And Una comes and wakes him up.
Hey, Link. Hey, Link, how is Link? My name's not Link, I'm Jack.
And
although the people who made Legend of Zelda said that was a huge influence on them.
So he wakes up and they're all in the forest, and we're introduced then to the original Forrest Gump. And he's
the original Forrest. Oh my!
Sorry. He's the original Forrest Gump.
Oh my God.
It's going to be
one moment.
days.
I have
Gump and he
to
lives in the
mark down
forest.
on my wall where I've got tick marks or how many times I have to punch you in the arm when you come to visit.
Life is like a box.
Forrest.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know when the entire universe is going to plunge into darkness.
You never do. Sometimes you're going to bite in and it's going to be a sweet praline, and other times it's going to be, oh nope, that's some darkness right there.
That's a damnation.
Well, I guess we just discovered the heat death of the universe. Like
I know this is 85% cacao, but it sure tastes like the end of the world.
Hey, it's a box of singularities.
So after Jack is woken up by all these fairy folk, we've got the forest elf, Honeythorn Gump, which he has that very Puck-like demeanor for anyone who has seen or read *Midsummer Night's Dream* by William Shakespeare. And he's like, "What? You, a forest child, and you do not know me? What sort of forest child are you?" So like very, very into himself, like most fairies tend to be. They tend to be very vain, very fickle, very changeable, and we see this multiple times later on.
And he's really fucking mean. He's mean to all of them. He makes fun of them all. He's
projecting. He's got, like everybody else in this movie, he's got his own issues to work out.
There aren't a lot of amusements for Puck. So
yeah. Well, I mean, he's wearing a loincloth and has a violin. That's about it.
Yeah, no, he comes in with a fiddle, and I don't think I ever see him touch it again in the entirety of the rest of the movie.
Which is
fine.
No, he destroys it. He smashes it. Yeah, like a rock star.
If he was smart, he would have challenged the devil to a fiddle contest.
See, that would have worked.
Yeah,
I bet Gump totally would have had a shot at that. Ooh, and then, like, just as he's like starting to get tired and like thinking maybe I can't do this, then Blix and Associates and the bonfire all come in the background, and they're backing him up, and it's so fucking awesome. And the darkness is just, it is too amazing. I will fall into the void.
With Death from Bill and Ted playing bass.
Yeah.
Yes. And they kind of lead Jack. Everyone goes to find the mayor, who is, I want to say, like, kind of standing over the stallion. and because Blix has cut off the horn.
Lily comes along later because
Okay.
she comes to warn Brown Tom that,
Yes, that's right.
they're on their way.
I gotcha. That's right. And at that point, Brown Tom has stayed with the mayor, and the rest of them have gone off because you can't go on an epic quest without the enchanted armor and sword.
So they have their little party for love, and then they make their plan and head out and leave Brown Tom behind. Meanwhile, Lily then rocks up because she knows that they're coming for the mayor, and
she really is very remorseful.
It sounds to me like you're saying
I feel for her.
I keep thinking of the mayor from Jaws. So could you say unicorn?
No, not mayor. The mayor.
Okay.
Actually, I have my space unicorn blanket here as well.
Hey.
All right, so Lily is given the warning. She's very remorseful. You have to leave. You have to leave now. Gracious me.
And then they show up, and Brown Tom is actually a really skillful little fighter.
Yeah, with the frying pan. I wonder if this is where they got, like, if entangled, Rapunzel will never be separated from her frying pan, and she expertly uses that thing as a weapon in multiple scenarios. And in the very end of the movie, basically an army of thieves and brigands armed with frying pans is what saves the day. So this is the moment. Go, Brown Tom.
So they head off then to go and get armor for Jack, and they're heading through this swamp. And who pops up but Meg Mucklebones. Who, again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Seeing Robert Picardo in this makeup, and knowing he's the holographic doctor in Voyager, I just love it. He does a lot of conventions. So if I ever get to meet him at a convention, I'm not going to have him sign the holographic doctor. It's going to be the Meg Mucklebones.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I'm going to have him sign Eddie Quist from The Howling if I ever meet him.
Very good. Oh. Yes.
Deep guts.
So he's on the way to get armor. Mia Sarah is on the way
and stuff first.
Unicorn.
This is Jack's first mini boss,
and then
gear him up for taking on the final one.
He gets his stuff first. He can barely lift this sword, and he ends up cutting off Mucklebone's head.
I just remembered that I believe it's the mayor is talking to Gump, and she says we must find a champion. You'll do.
Yeah.
He literally says, you'll do. It's like, oh, and are we sure this is the boy? But again, I suppose that's a good theme for almost any fantasy setting, especially this is before we all started getting really sick of the chosen one archetype. In this case, it's almost better because he wasn't chosen. He just happened to be there.
Yeah. So we get to we get to the point where where Mia Sarah is going to protect the unicorn, sees Billy Barty having the pot fight, and
does she actually get captured, or does she just unwittingly stumble into Darkness's realm?
Yeah. I don't know, but she ends up in. All I know
she follows them.
All I know is I looked away from the screen for 2 minutes, and all of a sudden she was Darkness's prisoner.
So. Dave,
and there was
when I come out, can we have a pot fight?
Sure. We'll stop by Goodwill, grab a couple of pots, and go at it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's our story.
Don't give one to Kat though, because they will probably hit me with it.
A lot.
Only if you don't answer my questions. So Lily is in Darkness's realm, and we have our merry band of misfits descending into the realm of darkness. And at that point, what did you call him? Buckethead? I think I think his real name is Blunder. When he was still a dwarf, or at least looking 100% dwarf. and they come across him in the dungeon, which, you know, you always got to go through the dungeon. You can't have a little an epic quest without a little bit of a dungeon crawl. Una says, or earlier on had revealed to Jack that she actually has kind of a humanoid form. It isn't just like a little fucking firefly.
And she wants him. She wants him.
Oh no, she wants to fucking bad.
Yeah.
She wants to jump every single bone in
this
his
whole
body
started because
individually and then all together and then do it again.
She's making the Bannister lucky.
This whole movie started because Jack wanted to show Mia his horn, and then he got mad when she touched it.
That was the read you were waiting for, right, Dan?
Yep.
You're like, all right, get over with the Adam and Eve thing so that I can bring her to get this.
Lord.
That's almost as bad as the original Forrest Gump. It just dungeon, 12 years dungeon, both of you, 7 years, no trial.
Welcome to,
Hey,
you're
taking me to a dungeon. I'm there.
To take things seriously.
So Una, her secret gets out because Jack is like, dude, you have to do the thing, otherwise we're gonna be dead. Yeah. And so for whatever reason, like, she could deny it, she could just leave. I mean, fairies, you know, don't give a fuck about anybody. But instead, no, she reveals it and she's like, oh no, you told my secret. And Gump is really pissed, and I don't know why he's so pissed. Like, how dare you keep such secrets? I guess secrets would be quite a currency among fairy folk. But you know, she goes to this whole like attempted seduction of Jack, and like, child,
she'll do it.
We are in the middle of a war, basically. There is no time for this. I was like, no, I'll do it for a kiss, and then the chase is to kisses. Oh yeah, sure. You call that a kiss? Yeah. But she does bring the keys, so fair play.
She does get them out, and then we end up in the dungeon. In the dinner scene with Darkness, which is basically, it's the end of every slasher movie where the stalker makes the big dinner for the proposed wife, and she's tied up in a chair.
It's like, isn't this wonderful?
Come on, these are the mating rituals of his people. Work with us here.
Yeah, and like I love that. I still don't quite understand. He's constantly referencing Mother Night and Father Fire, maybe, who, you know, he's constantly talking to them. And we actually do hear the voice of his father, which may or may not be fire, which I get that. That's a force of, you know, destruction and creation all together in one.
Well, he's the son of Lucifer, basically.
I'm disappointed. I thought he was actually Lucifer.
He's darkness. He's the son of Lucifer.
So he's the Antichrist.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. All right. That's all we have to say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's why he consults. That's why he consults his father. He's like, you know, I want to destroy everything, but I'm feeling this.
I'm feeling the feels. Doesn't I think up? I'm feeling the feels for this pretty thing. I want the pretty thing.
And he's like,
wreck everything. Can I still have the pretty thing? Come on.
Yeah, like, okay, so Darkness is basically Vader, and the voice coming from the fire is the Emperor.
It's Palpatine.
You know, must bring her to us, you know, and make her one of us. You know, we must woo.
God, you know? I had forgotten about that, like, stone cherub that's sitting by the pillar in the scene where the masked. This isn't really thick enough, but you know, the masked creature, whatever they are, with
and it freaking moves,
dancing. Yeah, no, she's got moves.
No. Oh, I thought you were talking about there's this cherub that's sitting there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just gets up and moves. I had
forgotten about that.
Oh,
it's like
that freaked me out.
Doing it. Yeah. It reminds me of the fucking 3D dancing baby that I want to say SNL originated.
Ally McBeal.
Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. See, I was really young when that stupid thing became a thing, like at award shows and whatnot. So I didn't really get it, but that's what it made me think of, like the round, chubby body and like the John just dancing the whole time. Just do that. That's the video now. John dancing.
We need a close up on John dancing.
I'm going
So-
to.
So Lily does, in her way, get a little tempted. She does, have a few moments of weakness because she is kind of pulled away. And I love how the dancing creature never actually quite touches her until Lily comes of her own accord, kind of like she's clearly in some kind of trance or something. But like she gets very close and then I shan't touch you. No.
If it was a little bit more, if it was a little bit closer to R-rated, they would have made out.
After she's, become decked out as I have tried to imitate here.
Successfully.
Very well.
Yeah, the darkness shows up and it's like, how do you like my gifts? And she goes, oh no, I have been tempted. No, I didn't want all this finery, dear me.
She snaps out of it, but then she snaps back into character really quick. And she's like, fine, I hear a throat that needs to be cut, and he's like, and then when she says, I love it when she says, fine.
But on one condition.
Anything.
I want to kill the unicorn.
And
Yeah,
then
no, I do
darkness
love that. That's
basically
just
has an
totally
orgasm.
Yeah, no.
You see him, he's like,
In my fan,
sound doesn't quite come out right away. It's just
a woman after my own cold black heart. And
she even tricked Gump.
Yeah. There's another moment of Gump just being like, because he says,
have faith in her, and then 2 seconds
trust
later,
with your heart, not with your eyes. But then he's like, she's one of them. Shoot her.
Yeah.
You just said like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
probably
He, like, turns
multiple
on a
versions
dime.
of the script, and they were
Mind.
working with them both.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, he
I
turns
think
on a
Gump
dime.
actually just has some very serious, like, short-term memory issues.
Yeah.
Did I say what? No, I didn't say that. Yes, you
Gump-
did. No, I
Gump
didn't.
the
If
goldfish.
it doesn't have to do directly with him, it's kind of inconsequential. So Jack,
Okay.
does what he needs to do. He says it again, just like he did earlier. We have a nice little scriptural callback. I trust you, Lily. And he does he fire the arrow first, or does she
she
bring the
brings
knife down
blade
first?
down.
She brings the knife down.
May my sacrifice be made of flesh and blood.
Playing the part very well. And
Yeah, I love that line.
just kidding. Run
I
free,
am
unicorn!
sister. The I am sister to the fates. Oh my gosh. I was like, wow, that's good stuff.
So good. Well, and then I felt so bad for the poor horse. I don't know,
but-
who was doing the animal handling on this movie. But as soon as she strikes it and it tries to run away, it basically looks like it falls into a pit of fire that's up against the wall.
I'm gonna push back on John a little bit here.
Okay.
Ooh.
So earlier on, he was saying that he was always she's spoiled and all this other stuff, and
Yeah.
The entire arc of the movie is Tom Cruise learning to trust her and to not, but he doesn't actually just say trust. The dwarf does, or whatever, doesn't say to him trust her. He says look at her with your heart and not your eyes.
Trust her with your heart, not your eyes. I love that line.
Don't judge.
Mhm.
The problem was everybody was judging, and it's sort of like her whole thing is trying. It's a sort of a dialogue between her and darkness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's kind of what this movie is going for. It's saying that the fall in at the beginning was not that she touched a unicorn. It was that everybody lost faith. She didn't cause that unicorn to get shot. She just was touching it.
She did not.
Idiot off to the side shot. It had nothing to do with
She
her.
did wrong
because
place,
She was
wrong
the
time.
conduit.
But because they were so tied to their beliefs, they had to blame her instead of blaming who shot.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, sort of, but
oh my
Sort
God,
of.
no!
That's
Wait,
exactly
wait.
what it is.
This comes across as like very blaming the victim of rape sort of thing, like that right in the head, Dan. Wow.
At that very.
Oh my God. Yeah. No. Because it's your goodness that lured the unicorn there. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of your fault, isn't it?
The-
If you
Yeah, I
if
see
you
what
like
you're saying.
I would see what
dress
John
yourself
said.
in the aura of pure of heartness,
Mhm.
then
I would
maybe
s-
the unicorn wouldn't have
I-
gotten shot. I'm just saying,
I
like
could see what John's saying if it hadn't been for that line of dialogue right before he had to choose. It was that line of dialogue that made everything kind of click.
Oh my
Gotcha.
God.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess I can see what you're saying there.
So sorry,
the
go ahead.
unicorn,
Oh,
the
and
unicorn is free, and Jack starts firing. Puts a couple of nice big arrows into darkness, which is
arrow on your neck.
pretty inconsequential. But damn, I mean, just the visual on that was amazing,
Yeah.
And
He's so like big and beefy, and I don't know. It makes me think of depictions of the Minotaur.
yeah,
In film and in animation, like it's always just the biggest, beefiest neck and shoulders, and like arrows going into big spots like that, like in the neck and the shoulder, and my pecs, man. I worked hard on that. See, why would anyone want to marry darkness? Because he's fucking ripped, bruh.
Yeah.
So while all of the final boss battle is going on, it's not just going to be the hero or the chosen one, the champion. That's what they call him, the champion. We need a champion.
Yeah,
you'll do. You'll do, loincloth boy.
Hey Ted, you're in. Do the thing.
So in my version of the movie I watched, the director's cut, Darkness is just defeated and he's not in the movie anymore. And in the version you guys saw, I guess he makes a final appearance right before the credits to say something.
As they have that, riding off into the sunset moment.
Yeah.
Well,
the elves and the fairies and the unicorns and laughing happily, but then the overlay of darkness.
There's also the during the final battle, Jack realizes he has to get the unicorn horn and stab darkness with it. So he's going in, and they finally complete their little intricate plan that Jack actually came up with to get the light down there. And the light slams into darkness, throws him back against this opening, and
falls into the void.
And then Jack comes up and cuts
You're
his hand
into
off.
Space like the xenomorph in Aliens.
Yeah, he floats off into space, and then boop, he turns into a constellation.
I kind of missed that. I must have already been like,
he
okay,
goes up into space.
Movie's over now. Climax has happened.
He turns into a star, and the star bursts and becomes a constellation.
Okay.
And then everything is right with the world. And we get to the end, and very similar to in Labyrinth, we have a scene where they're all together, and Gump tells him, you have a promise to fulfill, and which is to go and get the ring. And he goes, but I'll miss you. And he goes, well, never forget us. And then of course they're all standing on the ridge waving.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the whole,
should you need us?
Should you need us? Yeah.
Should you need us?
So he goes and gets the ring, and presumably they get married. In
the version I
because she had set the challenge. She went back and said, "Oh, I have set forth the ring. Whoever brings it." 1 hour later, I am here. I have found the ring. But you are a peasant boy.
I
yes,
have a new
I
challenge.
found the ring. By the law of the land, he gets to be a prince now. So
in the director's cut, they just agreed to meet each other again tomorrow, kind of like what they always do.
See, I like that. I want to go back and watch the director's cut now.
I'm just kind of picturing everybody gets a little tired of them hanging out in the forest and then periodically putting the universe in fucking peril.
Yeah, I think a lot of forces would come against them.
It's easier to not do that when you're like in solely the human world, constantly going off and dallying in the enchanted woods. You gotta be real careful there.
Every now and again, just go out and get a Slurpee. Come on,
So the whole, there's this line that kind of keeps coming back up. It's I want to say they mentioned something about it in the opening scroll, exposition scroll brilliant scarlet lettering on a black background, talking about how light and darkness cannot exist without each other. And darkness even says it as he's, kind of struck down there. What is light without darkness? And I kind of had the thought, I'm like, the villains always ask this, what is light without darkness? I'm like, what? Well, what is darkness without light?
What?
Well, by your logic, you can't have one without the other, right?
Well, I mean, yes, that's what I said.
So why do you have this raging hard-on to destroy the unicorns and the light with it? Insolent car! Yeah, man, you got issues. I hear you talking to your parents all the time. You're basically living in their basement. Come on, buddy. You're a full-grown ass demon lord. You got to stop playing dungeon crawls and grousing that girls won't talk to you. It's time to get out and make some friends.
I feel like this the darkness and Mia's budding interplay. I won't call it because obviously
interplay
thing
is very similar to what we see in a lot of slasher movies. Because at Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface can't even speak, but he really isn't. He's really there's one girl he doesn't want to kill. That's the one he's going to tie up in the chair and try to make marry.
Yeah, there always is that kind of and. Part of me, I'm kind of curious. Like I get the whole innocence thing. I'm sorry, my veil is just being a brat. It's hard being the darkness. Okay, we have a lot of costuming issues. This whole the innocence is what suddenly makes the darkness kind of stop dead in its tracks. And he's even saying it when he's talking to Father. She and Father responds, she fascinates you because she is so pure. And I don't know whether that's kind of nice towards the pure and the feminine, or if it's kind of infantilizing. I want to look.
I think it's
this
infantilizing.
Particular kind of trope. Throughout different media sometime and just specifically focus on that, well, you're the one thing.
But there's the scene where he
weakens the darkness.
He throws a fit when she won't sit down. So it's really about control. It's really about control. It's not about, finding a way to be together. So
oh yeah, no, I mean he's well, and he even says I offer you my heart, my soul, my love, and she kind of looks at him like your love.
Well,
what do you know about love?
And he thinks he's telling the truth probably because it's probably it's like, oh, I'm giving so much. Yes. Probably to him it probably is a lot, but it's just
and he's never
clearly trying. He's strained and the vein is popping out in his big muscly neck, and he's kind of clenching his hands. It's just sit and talk with me. That's all.
Well, he's feeling something. He's feeling something he's never felt before, and
again, it's called puberty.
and it's funny
you were
because
feeling it.
Father,
he was feeling it. It's a whole thing. Mia Sari made it happen.
Yeah. Well,
me and Dave were just mentioning this in the chat that movies of the '80s, but I think are way too consumed with this. This area of how did you put it, Dave?
That passing from
childhood to
adolescence into adulthood, and I'm thinking that there are a lot of boomers at that point in time who happen to be film directors or writers who just kind of look back on that entire period with some very rose-colored glasses and made some big stories out of it.
I can see that being a thing.
I think also that was, you're talking about a generation that was raised far more on fairy tales than we were. And so that's kind of a key element.
I may be an exception.
Me too.
So I was saying to John, and he and we know, and he'll have plenty of time to refute me, and I'm sure he will. That I think this movie is way more beautiful and a better mounted production than the script kind of supports.
Yeah,
do like the end where she does say that line that kind of recontextualizes everything for me and makes it a little deeper, but. I feel like the director of Alien, the writer of Angel Heart, the special effects guy from RoboCop and The Howling, they had all these great talents. The photography by Alex Thompson is superb. And I think they managed to elevate what was a very standard fantasy script to a level that is to the level of press play, but just barely for me.
Well, I
would
Visually,
say that.
it is very stunning, and the use of prosthetics and special effects makeup,
Yes,
like Meg, what is it,
Oh
Meg
my
Meg
gosh.
Mucklebones?
Meg
Yes.
a
Mucklebones.
technical marvel on every level.
Yeah. The way that her mouth moves is just like dreadful in the best way.
Yeah. That's all Robert Picardo.
Well, and Rob Bottin. I mean,
Yes.
definitely Rob
that's-
Bottin.
I was gonna say there was probably puppetry
yeah.
going on in
Yes.
there.
Oh, he's like one of the premier special effects guys of the 70s and 80s.
Mm.
He was mostly doing horror movies before this, and I think the movie right before this was The Thing, wasn't it? Did he do The Thing?
Yeah, he did The Thing.
Did The Thing? Yeah. So
He did the thing.
He
He's
Yeah.
like Julie. He did the thing.
So
Yeah.
he and The Thing is still to
Sorry,
this day.
Cora reference.
To this day, The Thing is still one of the best makeup effects movies probably ever made.
Yeah, back when you actually had to do an awful lot of stuff real for real.
All in
Yeah,
bright lights.
practical effects for the win. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think that's maybe why I love 80s fantasy movies so much, and it makes me so sad that they did so poorly in theaters. And I know it was kind of like a cultural time. People weren't necessarily, most people in the mainstream weren't really looking for that sort of escape. But so many of them have such cool setting, like set design, makeup design, costume design, and all of these like fantastical effects that, even if by today's standards they look really clunky, at the time, like some of them were revolutionary. And I love the realness. Like you can touch this stuff because
It was all
none
practical.
of it is like done over in extra. What am I saying?
I think
Yeah.
when
Animation.
you're watching a makeup effect, one thing you're not conscious of, maybe I'm more conscious of it because I edit, and you guys, a lot of you guys edit, so maybe but
Looking for where the pointy ears,
no,
the prosthetic line.
I'm always aware of shots that are not possible in camera. So when I'm looking at a digital effect that is really, it might be a perfect digital effect, it might be amazing, but if I know there's no way the camera could logistically do that without a computer faking the movement or whatever, then my brain automatically goes, okay, that's not real. Even
Like
I would rather see,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I would rather see a slightly less spectacular effect done in camera, and have them only do what they can get away with in camera. Because that's another thing. Because if you're only doing what can be done in camera, your brain fills in the gaps. But when your brain doesn't fill in gaps, you can sense something's off.
When they give everything to you, what is it called when they like make AI designed faces? The uncanny valley. Is that what it is? Yeah. That's an interesting thought. That like if you give me everything so much that it makes it like the most hyper realistic thing, my brain is like, I don't know about that because there's nothing left to fill in.
Right.
A prime example of this is in Lord of the Rings when Legolas is running up the crumbling stairs, and you can see that he's being digitally moved.
It is a little, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
And I think
in a way that's mean on the eyes.
Yeah,
I think
it
that
is.
it's something that we've gotten away from, in terms of production, because in many respects digital is easier. But also, I think, much the same as everybody's been pointing out, when it doesn't work, or when it becomes to the point of, if you know anything about film, you're like, that is literally impossible to do. It does kind of pull me out of there.
Yeah.
Especially when digital flames or digital blood or something. Effects guys are being lazy.
It doesn't have quite the blood, sweat, and tears vibe that practical effects do. And I'm going to push back, like, apart from the jumping from crumbling staircase bit to crumbling staircase bit, the CGI in Fellowship of the Ring is actually
really good.
That holds up. Like, that was astounding. The texture and the movement of so much of that stuff throughout the entire movie, just great.
I don't hate CGI. I'm just telling. In fact, Jurassic Park, my mouth was on the floor like anybody else. But I'm just saying that, like, there should be a blending of the two technologies for whatever's best in the shot. And there's not a lot of times. It's annoying to me.
And the good thing is we don't see any of those problems in Legend.
No, and that's
like even Una
it didn't exist at the time.
Effect. Even Una was a practical effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's a thing that I think will start to come back. Like, more people will start to blend things again. I see it a lot with stop animation movies like Coraline. Where so much of it is done all by hand, but then occasionally they'll, be blue screening or green screening a background, just to kind of keep things consistent. And the same thing, I'm going to bring up Tangled again. I don't know how much of this technology carried forward into the final product that was released to the public, but at the very beginning of the project, Tangled, before it was called Tangled, I don't remember what the working title was. It was probably just Rapunzel. They were trying to develop techniques that would blend traditional matte painting and traditional animation with CGI. And there is, I want to say the painting is just called The Swing. That was what they were kind of basing the whole look of this world around. And that because that part of it, like, it eventually didn't really get scrapped so much, but it really got pushed to the back as far as priority goes. But I was really disappointed when I started hearing that all that was kind of falling apart, because it was so exciting to hear this blending of traditional effects and digital effects and bringing them together and making them move in harmony. You cannot have one without the other. It's just like darkness and light.
I love this newest technology that they have where, and Ewan McGregor was talking about this in an interview with Jimmy Fallon, how it's so different than when he filmed Phantom Menace in that, with the green screens and all of that, where now they just walk into this area and just everything
green screen room.
Oh, yeah, well, the Mandalorian technology you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, and they're using it on the Obi-Wan series, and Ewan McGregor was talking about how the first time he walked onto that set and they flipped all the screens on, he said, acting, basically acting is a lot easier when you're surrounded by everything you're supposed to see.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what's used in the final film, is what you're looking at is what the fans are going to see as well. And you're surrounded by this world, and it's amazing.
It is a definite skill to be able to film acting in and of itself, totally different thing from stage acting. It's a different animal, because you're typically not going in sequence. You're typically going to be repeating things over and over and over again until the final product gets whittled down. But then to be acting and reacting to things that are supposed to be in front of you but aren't, and you've got maybe like concept art to imagine in this space in front of you, that's a definite skill. But
a ping pong ball on the end of a rod, this is
on the mocap suits. A skill that I would love to I would love to get into mocap stuff. I got to take a workshop at a fight choreography conference once that I was lucky enough to get to like tag along on, and I just loved the mocap thing. It was really cool. I don't think I have said it, but even though this is not my favorite fantasy movie, and I do have several chopped up bones to pick with certain aspects of it, I think it's a press play. And I would say that if like fantasy films are something you enjoy, that high fantasy setting, then I think it would be worth it to watch the different versions and see if any of them speak to you more than one of the others. I think, yeah.
Good point.
Dave? Oh.
Yeah, for me, it's a total press play. I enjoy it. I think that it's a little more style than it is substance. It kind of feels like it feels in terms of like writing and such. To me, it just feels a little thin. But if that's my only bitch about it, I mean, I am also the guy who sits around and talks about Tarkovsky films as if they were the great pieces of art that they were. And Ridley Scott, you know, is a person who understands his visuals on a really.
By the way, I think you mean Sir Ridley Scott.
Sir Ridley Scott. My apologies. Yes. But to me, I think it's a film that, whatever weaknesses it has in terms of just writing, I think it more than makes up for in terms of like fleshing out the world in a really, really visual way that just draws you in. The visual element tells as much of the story as much as the script does, and I think it does a great job with it.
I don't know how my brain didn't connect this until literally just this second, but Sir Ridley Scott did not just Legend, but he also did Blade Runner, right? He was the director on that.
This was the movie.
Well, there you go. That's why we love all the little bits in the background and the world building, and we can forgive kind of a minimalist, occasionally jerk to the side script.
Yeah. He's never made an ugly movie. Let's give him that.
No.
Yeah.
John.
I do appreciate a feast for the eyes.
Yes.
You know,
John.
just don't drink the cup of mysterious red liquid that's filling up on its own at the table. Don't drink that. Pro tip.
John, you're a press eject, right?
Oh God. No, this
Mia
is
Sarah
one of
is
my,
so disappointed.
this is one of my favorite fantasy films. You know, when I think of my childhood, this is one of the things I think of is Legend. You know, it just, like I said earlier, it spawns so much imagination for me. You know, that carries to, you know, this day when I write, you know, as far as modules or games for like D&D or whatever. There's always a sparkle of movies like Legend, for example, in it. I also love to take from, you know, things like Willow and Labyrinth, of course, as well. But you know, Legend was always one of these films that I absolutely adored. So it's a double press play, and you know, I watch it honestly like every couple months, you know, if not more often than that.
Do you have it on Blu-ray? Because if you don't,
I do, but that Blu-ray is in storage somewhere.
Well, I have it on Blu-ray, and I'm sending you a package, and I'm probably not going to watch it again. So,
okay.
Birthday.
Hey, awesome. Thank you.
So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, so
and
would press play, but once is enough.
Once would press play. I've seen it more than once because I saw it when it came out. Once is enough. It's not by any means a bad movie, but I just felt like
I've seen worse.
It's a very okay movie, elevated to a press play by the level of artistry of everybody involved: acting, music, writing, the photography, makeup, everything. So press play. Not my favorite fantasy movie. Labyrinth is better. Lady Hawk is better.
I've never seen Lady Hawk.
Dragon Slayer's better.
Oh,
all these movies are better, but it's good. It's worth seeing.